Hi, I'm Jane. I work in the HARP program at Bendigo Health. For those people who have not heard of HARP before, HARP is an acronym and it stands for the Hospital Admission Risk Program. Now, there's a little bit of confusion in the community about what this program does, and I'm here to demystify it for you. So I actually am the heart failure nurse in the program. So it's a multidisciplinary program. The HARP program was set up in Victoria many years ago based on the Ed Wagner chronic disease model, and which puts what we call the care coordinator at the centre of the patient's journey. So if the patients need to have any referrals to allied health, and that is separate to any medical involvement. Now, in HARP, we generally see our clients, we get our clients from after they've been in a hospital for an acute admission. We have a person in our team who's located in the hospital who goes over each day and talks to anybody who we feel would be relevant for help after they go home. So we have several cohorts, and we are targeting the frequent presenters. My cohort, as I said, is the heart failure. We also work with COPD clients and diabetes, renal, and we have complex care clients as well too. So I think it covers just about everything. But we see people wherever we need to see them. So our aim is we're predominantly a home visiting service, and our aim is I think one of our KPIs is to see people within 10 days. But that isn't always possible for people who go home because they have a multitude of very willing therapists wanting to come out and see them at home, and I think it's very overwhelming sometimes for people to be rung up by all these different therapists say, can I come and see you at home? I'm the OT, or I'm the heart failure nurse, or Dr. such and such has asked me to come and see you, and all good. But, you know, people are at home recovering from being in hospital. So our aim is to coordinate a little bit of that care for them, and then we make an appointment with the client to go into the home to meet with them and or their carers or their spouse or any other family that wish to be present. We always ask their permission if they wish to be part of the HARP. Once I've met a client, I have my clients referred to me within the HARP program. Once I've met a client, I will talk to them. I get a general history about what works for them and what doesn't work for them, what we can offer and what they want. So many people who did not know their condition was called heart failure, they just had a bit of fluid accumulate, or it's just been a big shock. I've just put on all this weight and I don't know why. So now the doctor tells me that I've got heart failure. What am I going to do now? They told me I have to weigh myself every day, but why do I have to do that? And I'm only allowed to drink 1.5 litres every day. What sort of things can I drink? Does that mean I'm allowed alcohol? What can I do? And I don't know whether I'm allowed to get out and about. I haven't got any energy. So my job is to go in and help demystify that process, to help them get back into an independent life. As near to their pre-morbid condition as possible. So I base my education as well on what the patient would like to achieve. So if the person has been previously independent and they want to go back to bowls, well, we work on that. They might have lost a little bit of muscle condition when they've been in hospital, but they really, really want to go back to bowls. So we work on strength. We also work on keeping them safe. Now, when I say keeping people safe, it's reducing the risk of readmission. As I said, HARP, Hospital Admission Risk Program. So we're looking to reduce that readmission. So then I might talk to people about what constitutes a fluid. I use Heart Foundation literature, there's a very good booklet that the Heart Foundation puts out called Living with Heart Failure. The most recent publication has a very informative picture of what is a fluid. So I use the term anything that's liquid at room temperature, and that would include ice cream and jelly, or anything that pours like custard. Often people haven't thought about that, but I think most people don't have bucket loads of ice cream and jelly. Well, I don't, but anyway, who knows? Then we talk about soup, and we talk about, so keeping it within that limit. And I talk about some strategies for helping people do that. It's a very human foible that when you are thirsty, you want to drink. And I've only been told that I can drink 1.5 litres. Well, what does that mean? So some strategies for use, I often say to people, if they are used to drinking a whole glass of water, well, perhaps you could get one of a clear bottle like you would purchase at the supermarket, fill it up with water, put it in the freezer overnight, and when you take it out tomorrow, it will be frozen. You can only drink your water as fast as it thaws out, but it'll be nice and cold and fresh. That's one strategy. So there's some other strategies that people can use. So aiming to keep that fluid in check. And the other thing is that, you know, if they go over a little bit over their litre restriction, over their fluid restriction, not to stress out about it too much. The other thing that they've been told in hospital is that they need to weigh themselves each day. Well, what do we do? What happens? I'm this much, I've only been eating Wheat Bix for breakfast and I hardly have anything today to eat through the day because I haven't got an appetite. So why am I putting on weight? Well, actually I'm really focusing on the fluid, what I call the fluid weight, and that's how I explain to people about the fluid, the constant exchange of fluid in and fluid out. So weighing themselves as opposed to measuring their urine, which I think most people would find a little bit distasteful, is to establish whether there is an increase in weight, so if they're retaining fluid. And just explaining the very simple premise to people that 1 litre of water weighs 1 kilogram. So if you're put on 1 kilogram overnight, you've retained 1 litre of water that you probably don't actually need to hang on to. Now, the other thing is to reassure people that their weight will fluctuate a little bit each day. But what I also give people is an action plan as to what to do if their weight goes up more than 2 kilograms in 2 days. Now, that's the guideline that I use, and I go 2 in 2. But something to put on the fridge as well, so that the family know, the patient knows as well, so they know what they're doing. I'm not just weighing myself for the sake of it. I know if my weight goes up, so I need to balance what I'm drinking and what and what my weight is. If my weight has gone up, why has it gone up? Am I drinking too much? Now, the doctor said to me that my kidneys could be not functioning adequately. My kidneys, and I had a blood test, what's happening there? So yes, there could be something going on with some renal dysfunction as well. But I like to look at the fluid history because, yeah, okay, people do take a little bit of time to get used to the fact that they have to reduce their fluid. The other thing I do talk a lot about is just why heart failure happens. Because I get a referral, I usually have a bit of an idea as to what's happened to them in the past, if they've had a history of ischemic heart disease, if they've had cardiac bypass surgery, if they've had numerous stents, or they've had numerous heart attacks, or if their diabetes. I need to know their background so we can help to moderate all those other things that are going for them. And diabetes, type 2 diabetes is often prevalent with people who have cardiac surgery, and looking at the other risk factors for heart failure and ischemic heart disease, obviously thinking about things like smoking. Is the patient still smoking? Have they tried to quit? Are they ready to quit? If they have, their diabetes, are they on have they got a high cholesterol? Are they on a statin? We look at the medications as well, and see if there's anything that may well be useful to help the patient function a little bit better. Now, the GPs are working with those clients, and I always convey to the clients of the patients, we call them clients in the community. I like to convey to the clients that their GP is their primary carer, and that's the person who they need to seek if there's any deterioration in their symptoms, because often their cardiologist or their physician is not available very often, so the GP is the one that we need to. So say I've talked to a patient and some of them ring me up and say, look, Jane, my weight has gone up a couple of kilograms and I've over the last 3 to 4 days. And on the phone I'll talk them through, what have you been doing? Oh, well, I went to someone's birthday party and we had a couple of extra drinks and whatever. Or no, I've been sticking to my fluid restriction very well, but it still keep going up, and I did it again today and it gone up a little bit more. Well, then the first thing I encourage people to do is to go and see their doctor and not to leave it, okay? If their weight has gone up a little bit, perhaps 0.6 of a kilogram in a day, have a look the next day to make sure, it's evening out. And once again, that reassurance about that weight does fluctuate every day, so that's important, I think. I also talk about salt restrictions, and explaining once again the very basic premise that if you eat something salty, you usually want to have a drink with it. So things like just reducing, and there is some information in the Heart Foundation book Living with Heart Failure about reducing salt, and explaining that the salt, your taste buds will adjust around about 6 weeks to less salt. So just reassuring people that if they always had to have a little bit of salt in there when they're cooking their potatoes, well, yes, okay, you can cut that out, but you will slowly decrease it, but you will get used to that. If you want to have a little bit of salt on your egg and you've always had that, well, okay, you've got to do that, but really make a big effort with anything that comes to you in a packet or a can. And there's nutrition panels on those cans and packets. And I like to teach people, I don't always teach people about that on the first visit because there's a lot of information to convey. So once I finish the first visit, I will go away and based on what the client has told me, I will formulate a care plan and what they'd like to work on. We really do like people to have goals, as I said. So did they want to go back to bowls? Well, okay, exercise is recommended in the Heart Foundation, the Heart Failure Guidelines. The Heart Failure Guidelines is recommended for exercise. Everybody can do some form of exercise. Not everybody can get out and about. So I also concurrently work in the Heart Failure Rehabilitation Program, which is run under the outpatient rehab department. That's on a separate facility. But many heart failure patients don't know what they can do. They're getting tired, they've lost condition, but getting them to see a physiotherapist or an exercise physiologist and starting a structured program to get them back to bowls or whatever they want to do. I've never understood the appeal of bowls, but whatever. So golf was another one. I never could understand that either. But we work with people's goals and starting off low and slow, and what's achievable. So you don't create a mountain and just say walk it tomorrow. You have to start with the first step as well. I have a number of colleagues who I can refer to in HARP. There's a psychologist who, and we know that in heart failure there's quite a number of people who suffer from depression and may well be managed with antidepressant medication, which is great, but sometimes it's helpful for the patient to have just talked through their issues with, especially if there's a depression issue. So I've got a psychologist I can refer to. There's social workers that we have in HARP to deal with other things that are perhaps not specifically mental health, but certainly worrisome to the patients. Things like housing, you know, that's often a big thing. Then we've got diabetes educators who I can refer to if they need some guidance in that, and especially if they've been a little bit unstable. And I have an occupational therapist who I work with, who sits on the next desk to me and is terrific. She is able to go and see people who about their functional capacity, things like, you know, and this is what I assess in my first my first visit. Are they able to get out of their chair? Can they manage in the shower? Do they get too breathless when they? So I will ask her if I identify some issues that I feel that would benefit from. I'll go and talk to her and say, can you come and see this patient? She's a very busy lady, but she's always been able to fit people in. And she does some terrific work to help people overcome their functional issues and just help them with their goal to get back to bowls. So, so you know, we're working towards this all the time. So how do we refer? Yes, we can refer, GPs can refer into, anybody can refer in, medicos can refer in, allied health can refer into patients, and I think we can also have some self-referrals, but I think it's great if we get self-referrals to get the client to go along to their GP and just get it, you know, to perhaps send them through, because it gives us a lot of background about that client, patient, client, whatever. And but referring is just as simple as for medical staff to do a letter just outlining the client's major problems and anything that they would particularly like us to focus on. I had a referral recently from a physician who would like me to go and see a client of his who, because the client was particularly confused about how much extra diuretic to take when his weight went up. So I can help him and help him work through that too. So as I said, allied health people can refer on, and we do get a lot of people directly from the hospital after their admission or during their admission. And I work with a number of other care coordinators. I'm known as a care coordinator, but I specialise in heart failure, as I said. And some of those care coordinators also see the heart failure patients as well. So, and you know, we always absolutely need to keep our GPs in the loop. So we write them a letter after we've done the initial assessment to let them know that we are involved, and if there's anything that they would like to be collaboratively involved with too. So, as I said, I always reinforce that the client's primary care is their GP, and that's the person that they need to contact first. Not that I won't take a call for them, but yes, I usually refer them back to the GP. Is there anything else that anybody wants to know?